So where's this accent from?
You know already. It's from Italy,
What part?
Milan.
Milan. See, when I hear Milan, I think of like fancy, rich, beautiful Italians. But then I also think
Thank
of
you for the compliment. but
yeah,
Yes.
but then I'm confused. So born in Italy, eh? Born in Milan.
Yes, sir.
And how was that?
As far as like growing up goes, it was good. I mean, I don't think it makes a difference really. Like, especially when you're a child, like you're young, like your surrounding is your world. It's like what you know. It's what's normal to you. So I'm pretty sure it's like the same whether you're like in Wisconsin, like the guy that is asking me the questions right now, by the way, um, or if you're in Milan in Italy, it's just your surroundings. Like that becomes the norm.
Because you've been in the States now for how long?
Coming up to 14 years.
14?
Yes, sir.
Holy frick. I didn't know it was even that long.
Yeah, I was 18. So,
My gosh.
and just like that, I disclosed how old I am.
Right.
That.
So you've been in the States for a minute now. Like growing up in Milan, like what would you say was like a big difference or unique to you as a boy growing up in Italy?
Culture is different. The way people interact with each other is different. Let me give you a dumb example because why not?
Mm-hmm.
7-Eleven. Not a thing. It's not a thing. Like there's not a convenience store like that it's open 24/7. Like 3 a.m. and you want ice cream in Italy, you suck it up and wait for the next day. The culture is different. The way people interact with each other. I always had the underlying feeling like moving here, and I still do, that people are more genuine in Europe. Which it can mean two things.
You said genuine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means it's like a double-edged sword, meaning that they're more direct.
Yeah.
Meaning if somebody doesn't like you, they tell you that they don't like you.
Yeah.
Here, not so much.
But then on the flip side too, if they tell you that they do like you, you can trust it a little bit more
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
maybe like the flattery of Americans.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so growing up, only child.
Yes, sir.
Yep. And then what did mom do?
My mom was a stylist.
Okay. See, I feel like my picture of Milan is like getting more accurate. So mom was a stylist. Who'd she work for?
For the most part, she worked for Armani.
Yeah. Freaking baller.
My dad used to be an architect.
Mm.
Always had a huge passion, my dad, for comics. Right. So right about when I was again 7 or 8, I don't exactly remember if it was 7 or 8. Opened a comic book store, and originally it was like a kind of like a part-time gig.
What was it called? Do you remember?
Comics World. It did pretty well. Like grew up pretty quickly, became like a full-time gig, and then he opened another store and then another store, and yeah, so he owns comic book stores.
And he stopped doing architecture like around then?
Yeah. Ever since I was a kid, I was big in sports. You play out of sports if you were not good in soccer, fundamentally. But everybody wanted to play soccer. If you suck at soccer, then you played something
Oh, you
else.
play volleyball? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you play basketball or whatever, it's because you're not good at soccer. Yeah, I was pretty good. I played for the junior team of AC Milan. Then I blew up my left knee. Ruptured 2 tendons in my knee. About a year worth of surgeries. Funny enough, like as of today, like I can still predict when it's gonna rain or not, which is great because
Where does like the drive to go to America come? Because it sounds like you came to the States for college, so like after 18.
Mm-hmm.
Why America? What was happening then?
I was dating this chick, and then that summer I came in like visitor in the U.S. I was like, and then I like started to considering it as an option. And I don't know. I just wanted to do something different from like what everybody else was doing.
It's what school did you get in?
Well, so my first year of college was at Cal Poly, which is in San Luis Obispo. I don't know if you're familiar.
Cal Poly?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a little bit of a shock culturally. And the cultural shock for me came because obviously I was coming from Milan, which is a city.
Yeah.
Where you have, it's a city. It's like different. Um, so I remember like when I first my first flight over to like to California to there. So I flew into LAX and the bus drops me there, and I look around and there is nothing, but like nothing, fields and nothing, and I see cows and fields and cows. It's like, where the hell am I? Like, where is this? Is this America? Is this what this is all about? I mean, are people so stoked about this?
Right.
Yeah, my first year was there at Cal Poly, and then I transferred down to San Diego.
Absolutely. And what'd you go to school for in San Diego? What was your major?
Digital marketing.
Oh, really?
Digital marketing communications, to be specific.
Oh, wow. So you kind of were honed in. Why? Why did you choose that?
So I started thinking about like other things that interest me, and that's how I landed to digital marketing. Very
Wow.
different in the spectrum, but
Yeah.
that's how I got there.
Interesting too, because a lot of kids that I see going through school, like they start with something and they come out completely different.
Yeah.
But so it's not. And so you graduated from San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
What comes next for Francesco?
Actually, before I graduated, like I started doing an internship at an agency in San Diego, marketing agency in San Diego, and after like I just continued working there. Not an internship anymore. Thankfully, they started paying me, which is great.
Nice.
So, but yeah, after like a couple of years doing that, so I started looking around, and I was like, okay, let's see other things in the spectrum of like digital marketing and like how I could move there. And then obviously I already knew, but I'm gonna say just because it sounds cool, I stumbled into retention.
How so?
Yeah, it's something that overall interests me a little bit more. Business 101 is it's cheaper to like retain a customer than acquiring a new one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just interests me a little bit more. Conceptually, obviously, I knew what retention was already, but I didn't have that much interaction with the retention department till the day that I did.
Mm.
And I don't know. It interests me a little bit more, like the concept of like retaining customers and then obviously the concept of like automations and like things of that nature.
Because you've always been analytically minded, or is it something that's come natural to you over
Yeah.
your life?
Yeah, I've always been pretty analytical about things in general.
Were you good at math growing up?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
math was very much one of my strong suits.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've always been pretty good at math. Always been interested in like numbers and the meaning of numbers and like things of that nature. So yeah, it came pretty natural for me to gravitate towards that, like towards, well, as I said, digital marketing paid first, retention after. But I've always been more interested in the analytical part of like marketing rather than the creative part of things. Like, so yeah.
And how long did you last at Power, and what did you do after?
So I was at Power Digital for about 3 years.
Okay. So like 2016, 2017?
Yeah, right about.
Okay.
Moved on. Basically, I always been in agencies, really. Also from 19 to 21, and then 21 was structured.
And why did you leave?
Well, there is something to be said. Like, agency life, I think it's a little bit more hectic than working in house, for sure. Like, and there is a difference working with like 15 clients at a time versus basically working with one. Like, if you're in house, you're one brand. That's all you focus on. So you can put a lot more into it, but you do get that. You do get like the more single-minded focus working in house, but you do miss a little bit of that, or at least I did miss a little bit of the variety that you get.
And the learnings, hey?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a quicker opportunity for growth as well.
As a marketer?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
As a marketer within an agency.
Absolutely.
Because
I would recommend anybody that wants to be a marketer to start an agency, always.
How come?
Because of what we were just saying. Because you're exposed to like a lot more. Like, you're exposed to a lot more scenarios, like different scenarios, different type of clients from different industries. Like, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong in say, oh, I want to work with this specific client in this specific industry and I want to just build my career in that industry.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. But for me, the way I see it is a well-rounded marketer should be able to work with any brand in any industry. Like, the principles are the same.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would even argue that, like, okay, so let's say fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you work with all these fashion brands. Well, yeah, okay, you work with fashion brands and you can bring your expertise, but it might take me 2 weeks in testing 15 funnels to know exactly what fashion's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But to know what home and decor or what nutrition companies are doing and start to see, okay, that's what's working for them. How can I fashion that or tailor it to work for XYZ? That's when that kind of
Yeah.
the magic starts to happen.
But in my opinion, like, if you're an agency working with, instead of like one brand working with 10, 12, 15, however many, it trains you to be a little bit more quick on your feet. It trains you to see like pattern across them. It trains you to see differences across them. It trains you to, it puts you in the mind frame of, if I'm onboarding a new client, I need to like figure out who they are and their competitive standing in their industry relatively quickly to have like a quick turnaround and positive results for them. When you work for like a long time with just like one brand or with one industry, you kind of lose a little bit there. Like, you kind of lose a little bit
the edge, eh?
yeah, the competitive edge, I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Although you, on the other end, you do gain like perhaps like deeper knowledge about that specific industry, because
Sure.
that's also something to be said.
I think of team members at Structured who, worked their tails off with all these brands, found a niche that they liked, and went and worked for a brand and they loved it.
Yeah, no,
Right?
absolutely.
Because it's like, yeah, I have half the work and I get to focus deeply on what I love. But they never would have gotten there without getting that experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a lot easier of a transition going from like in agency to in-house than it is the other way around.
Yeah.
Now, if you start in-house, it's gonna be tough to like go in agency.
Let's say you have a brand with people that's really fun to work with, like the operators, and their team is bubbly and fun and happy and, good to be a part of. Or there's an account where, like, maybe the team are assholes, but the performance is crazy and you're crushing it.
Mm-hmm.
What is like what do you gravitate more towards?
The latter.
Because you like crushing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I like when I can show my value.
Yeah.
Like, I like being like, okay, this is what we've done. These are the results of what we've done.
Yeah.
Obviously, you always want those results to be positive.
Yeah.
They not always are, but that's like when you come in, like, and it's like, to me, it's like accountability as well, right? It's like, okay, I am responsible for this thing, or we are responsible for this thing. If it goes well, we take the credit. If it goes bad, we take the blame, right? And we fix it. But yeah, that's why I like numbers. Numbers don't lie.
Right.
Numbers are black and white. It's either this or it's that.
And it's sad too because we'll talk to new brands that are looking to onboard with us, and they're like, a lot of brands have been burnt bad by agency. And I think because a lot of agencies don't have that strong conviction to the performance. If they're not communicating on the front end, they're probably not doing the shit they need to on the back end to drive the performance in the first place.
Yeah.
I remember David had asked me once, he said, do you miss working with EE? And so at the time we were doing like $1 million weeks just through email. But then coming to Structured, I wasn't working with brands. Not all the brands I worked with were at that same volume. And there was a smaller brand called Itemins that had just scaled from like maybe 0 to 20K per month. And I was a part of that journey. And I said, honestly, David, it's fun to open up the funnels and test and iterate when you're driving, millions a week or millions a month. But the pride or the satisfaction, to use your word, comes from the 0 to the 1. Being instrumental in kicking off that growth,
Yeah.
getting that brand to where they want to go.
Mhm.
And that, like you said, that is the stuff that the relationship's built on, because you can kind of puff and what's for lunch today, and all the things kind of that we'll say from time to time. But if the really real isn't there, I mean, you might as well say goodbye yourself.
Yeah, for me it's like a little cultural as well. I don't like to circle around things. I'm pretty direct. You saw me on calls, like I cut to the chase. It's like, okay, these are the numbers. These are the numbers were like last month, last year, and these are they are now. We're doing better. Great. We're not. What can we improve? Like, where are the opportunities?
And where are you at now?
I'm at Zebbie Works.
And how's that going?
It's going all right, I guess.
Just all right.
The founder is a little bit of a douche, but
we'll make sure he doesn't watch the video.
Yeah.
What are you liking about Sebby Works?
Zebbie Works, I like the fact that it's pretty much we're building from the ground up, right? So like there is a lot of opportunity to move faster on things, to build things differently, to change things that need to be changed, and all of that. Where, if you're a bigger agency or a big organization in general, you're a little bit more confined and a little bit more politics involved.
And I think what you're saying speaks not only to the team side, which is impacted heavily by that process, the way that you're growing together, but also the brands are impacted by it too. Hey?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And let's say that there's a young man or woman watching this, looking to start out. Maybe they're Italian and they want us to go swim in the ocean, but digital marketings are calling. What advice would you give to them or your younger self?
Well, I would say, well, we kind of already mentioned, but if you're trying to get into the field, start an agency. Keep an open mind. Like, I don't know, something that for me I think worked out pretty well was doing different things within the funnel. Working at the top of funnel, working in the middle of the funnel, working on the bottom of funnel. Because I think no matter what, it's very important you have like a comprehensive view of things. Like that you're not siloed in what you do. Be aware there is a grind. And always try to see like things, like the entire things, the entire pictures. Both when it comes to the funnel, even when it comes to like interactions with clients, like don't just be like laser focus on like one metric without knowing how that metric fits in the big spectrum of things. Like, I don't know, for email, we could say about like email attributed revenue, right? Yeah. You as a marketer, like, yes, you do want to see that higher, but at the end of the day, you need to consider how does that fit in the grand scheme of things for the client. Because if email attributed revenue is 50% instead of 30%, that means that there is like another channel that is not doing so well.
Right.
So you
brace for impact.
Yeah. So you do need to put things in perspective, right? All the time. It's always good to like think that way. I don't know. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's about it. I'm really not that much on social media. I don't even know the last time I posted something on other social medias. Honestly, I stopped using social media when I was doing paid, because when you're on social media every day for work, then the last thing that you want to do is use it for your personal life. Yeah. But yeah, so LinkedIn, that's the way to go.
Right on. Thanks, Francesco.
Absolutely.